Hey, Keith Ramsey here with Garden Supply Company. I want to give you a little rundown on fertilizer and fertilizing plants. There's basically two types of fertilizer in broad tones: organic fertilizer and a chemical fertilizer. Chemical fertilizer is chemically produced, but it's naturally occurring elements. So it's produced to give you a higher range of nitrogen. Organic fertilizer, like Biotone, which is what we recommend for planting anything, it's got 4% nitrogen. 1% of that's readily available. 3% has to be broken down by microbes and beneficial bacteria. So you're not putting a lot of fertilizer on the plant when you're using organic fertilizer. It's more like taking a multivitamin. It's a good, consistent feed. The thing about Biotone, and the reason we recommend it, is it's got mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae it's a fungi that grows through the soil, and the roots follow it. Every time the fungi splits, the roots split. So it's extremely beneficial, especially in new subdivisions and where the soil and the natural soil has been stripped. It also has billions of bacillus, and which is good for breaking down nitrogen and kind of re-inoculating the soil with everything that's good for plants. The thing with organic fertilizer, though, is it requires a lot of fertilizer, and people tend to be a little cautious with fertilizer, so that you really need to read the bag, and you need to understand how much fertilizer you can put out. With a 25-gallon plant, which is what we've got here in this Japanese maple, a 2 foot wide plant. This is a 4-pound bag. It's asking for 2 pounds. So what you would tend to see a customer do is sprinkle a little bit of fertilizer. What we're going to do today is we're going to roughly, and it's very hard to over fertilize with organic fertilizer, but what we're going to do is roughly split that bag in half, so we've got 2 pounds, and we're going to dump fertilizer on. So when we're done, it looks a little bit more like mulch. So we've used half the bag for one tree. So it's important to really understand how much fertilizer is required to have any benefit to the tree. Given that that organic fertilizer is so slow, I'm not too terribly worried about over fertilizing the tree with it. Something like this, it's 10-10-10. It's a garden fertilizer from Espoma. It's going to require a half a cup of fertilizer. What I do is I'll put half a cup of water in a cup, mark it with a Sharpie, so that you know how much fertilizer to use, and you can basically go a half a cup at a time, and then just pour it back down to where the line is. So I've got it right there where the line is. But that's the equivalent. So you've got 2 pounds of organic fertilizer, and you've got a half a cup of chemical fertilizer. And the analysis on this is 10% nitrogen. The analysis that's readily available here is 1% nitrogen. But because organic fertilizer is not that fast, I'm not too worried about doing both fertilizers at the same time. One of them is going to be readily available to the plant now. The other one's going to be right behind it, picking up with the organic fertilizer. The other thing that most plants need as time goes on, when mulch breaks down, is lime. Your pH is always going to tend to fall, so adding lime, and there's no exact science with lime except for a soil test. So if you don't have a soil test, adding a little bit of lime to a plant on a regular basis is just a good idea, because it's going to change in our heavy clay. So in that case, and again, without a soil analysis, it's hard to tell, but in that case, I'm going with about a cup of lime, and you can just add that to the surface. The thing about the Biotone is it needs to be watered in, because it's got microbes and beneficial bacteria, and it needs to be washed into the soil because the light will end up killing some of those organisms off. After you fertilize, just water everything in well, and we typically recommend fertilizing early spring, late spring, and fall. I hope that helps everybody out, and we're always here to answer your questions.